right, so we had to butt into, you were holding court here, you were speaking
No,
to...
we were just a bunch of gamers having fun. That's what we do.
Yeah, but we're at the Neverwinter party here with R.A. Salvatore, and first of all, you've written these 4 books that we got on the behind me here.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into the sort of the Neverwinter? I mean, you've been dealing with Dungeons and Dragons for a very long time. How did you get into this?
Well, all of my books are set in the Forgotten Realms. All of my books with Wizards of the Coast, and the Forgotten Realm Neverwinter is in the Forgotten Realms area. It's on the coast in the realms, and so basically they said to me, for your next series with the Dark Elf, are you going to be anywhere near Neverwinter? And I usually am in that general area. I said sure, and they go, well, there's a new Neverwinter game coming, and we'd really like your books to set the stage for the game. And I said, well, what does that mean? And basically what it meant was, the new game, they want a different look, so basically blowing up a city. So I finally got to destroy a city in the Forgotten Realms, so count me in. So we had a big meeting up at Wizards of the Coast, and Cryptic came in, and Jack and his team came in, and the Wizards team was in there, and I was in there, and we just figured out, I told them, as they were telling me what they needed me to do, I was telling them how I planned to do it. And it didn't matter to me because I knew what this series was going to be about anyway, the meat of the series. I knew what the next Dark Elf series was going to be. Neverwinter just became the frosting on top of that cake. I could set it there. I can blow up a city. I can, introduce villains that fit with the game. Absolutely. Because I'm still going to tell the same... My story's about my characters. I've been following this Dark Elf for 25 years. I'm still following him. I was going to tell this story whether it took place in Neverwinter or some other part of the realms. So it all fit. It all made sense. And then what was really great is while I was going, if I saw like a really cool villain kind of off to the side in the book, maybe someone who I didn't care whether she lived or died, right? I'd get in touch with Cryptic and say, look, I got this really cool villain. You can have her as an NPC in your game if you want, or I can kill her. It's up to you. And so I send them the whole backstory, and they go, oh, we want to use her. And I'm like, cool, she lives. I'll tell you where she's at the end of the book. So it was this great kind of back and forth. But since my books take place a little before the game in the timeline mostly, it was made easier. If we were trying to do it at the same time, it would have been tough.
So basically you get sort of help with a little bit of the filling out the sort of the environments and that sort of thing and what's the settings, but at the same time you got the freedom to tell your own story.
Exactly, and so if you read the books, you're going to find out what happened in Neverwinter, how it happened, who did it, where it happened, why it happened. All of that will be in there as part of the story that I wanted to tell anyway. So yeah, it worked out beautifully.
So for the developers, the development of Neverwinter has been through a lot of different stages, but for you perhaps it hasn't been all that different throughout.
It's getting a little more complicated now because my books have caught up. So I really have to let them know anything that's going on that will be relevant to their timeline now. But for me, you're right. I had freedom, but freedom within certain parameters. And it's not that I was hindered by anything, but when I was writing the books, I always wanted to keep in mind, I understand what a game studio goes through. I worked with one for 3.5 years with 38 studios, right? So I understand their needs. So I would always try and put little Easter eggs in the book that I thought might be fun in the game if they wanted to keep it. Then, of course, it was their decision whether or not they wanted to keep it or not.
Speaking of 38, and I hate to bring it up because it is...
I got to see a whole bunch of the guys here at PAX. It's been great.
And they all got new companies.
Yeah, I went to their panel today. A whole bunch of them started their own independent game companies. So it's not... I'm sorry the way it ended, but what a great run. I met so many wonderful people. So now talk about it. What do you want to know?
Well, what I want to know is the world you were creating. Is that a world you'd like to sort of revisit and do something more on it? Just for no one else, for yourself.
Hands down, Amalur kicks ass. I love that world. And, I developed the skeleton for the world along with one dear friend of mine who finally was able to land. He worked for 38 for 5.5 years. He was like my buddy who got hired there to kind of help with the world. He just landed a job out of Blizzard, actually. But my gaming group got together and worked for me to develop the world. They were doing my research for me. I'm really proud of that world. I think, and then when I brought it in and I gave it over to the team, and then I became the editor, and they had to do, they were putting the meat on the bones that I had done. About 3 or 4 months into the process, I knew that really my job was done because everybody had bought into the philosophy of the world, what it was all about. The IP is going to come up for sale. I hope somebody buys it. I hope they contact me and want me to come back and do some work with it. I think it's awesome. And I'm not saying that because I wrote it. The parts I wrote, great. But the work the team did, the parts I wrote, I'm happy with. I'm very happy with the concept of the world. But the work the team did, the love they poured into that, expanding this hundreds and hundreds of pages in a wiki, just amazing stuff was coming out of that team. So I hope somebody picks it up.
Have you been hearing from fans who play the games? Sort of, have they made their voices heard?
Well, Reckoning went over really well. I mean, Reckoning got a nice Metacritic score, and it sold a lot of copies, and I sign a lot of them when I do my signings. People bring it up to me all the time and say, I love this game, when's the next one? But Reckoning really was Big Huge Games. 38 Studios bought Big Huge Games, and they did Reckoning. The team down there was amazing as well because they had to come in on time, on budget, period, because EA was funding it. And I am amazed at how quickly they grabbed our world and put it on their engine and came up with a game that full of story. So I think and I didn't write the story for Reckoning. I wish I could take credit for something like the House of Ballads or the House of Valor, but I can't. That was the narrative team under the direction of Ken Ralston down at BHG. And just another group of people I just miss so badly because the creative atmosphere at both of those studios was just amazing.
It is always heartbreaking when a developer goes down, but as you also said, it's like whenever something like that happens, there's more creativity sort of unleashed and people can go their own different ways and start things, and I think that's really what's happening now.
A lot of them seem to be landing on their feet with good companies or their own companies, yeah, so it's a journey, right? Everything we do here is a journey. If you live your whole life just thinking of I have to get to the goal, you're not living your life. You're just trying to get somewhere that's like you think you're going to some magic fairyland when you get to that goal. It's the journey. It's not the ending. The ending is death, dude. So I don't regret working with 38 Studios. I don't regret. I have so many friends from that. I saw those guys today, and there was hugs and tears all around. We're all buddies. I played softball with them, on their team. I was down there. I couldn't play frisbee with them because my knee wouldn't let me, but we were buddies. I'm going to the birthday party for a 3-year-old tomorrow from one of the guys at 38. He and his wife are dear friends of ours now. How do you regret that, right? I would have never met these people. So it was from that perspective, and I'll tell you, Kurt Schilling gets beat up a lot, but he did something really magical with the people he brought together. He hand-selected that team, and he brought in some of the best people ever, and I give him a lot of credit for trying. He put his own money on the line. I give him a lot of credit for that, so no regrets from me. It is what it is. I'm sorry people got hurt. I got hurt. My sons got hurt. But as that fades, the good parts come to the forefront, and I think you're seeing that with the team now.
All right, so let's end on you said that things comes to an end and things like that, but Neverwinter series is coming to an end, but will you sort of stay put in that part of the realms?
Oh yeah, well here's the thing. I don't think they keep taking all my books and they turn them into trilogies and quartets and quintets, and I don't think of them that way. I've met this dark elf, and he showed me some adventures, and then he told me where he came from, and now we're just going down the road with him and his friends and his enemies, and we're just going down the road, and the next story just keeps coming up. I got a book coming out in August, and he's on the cover, so do the math, right? I also have a comic coming out starting in April, another one from IDW, the second series called Cutter, Cutter is a sword that used to belong to one of my heroes. A dark elf has it in the Silver Marches. So there's this little side story, which is going to tie in with Neverwinter and with the Sundering. It all makes sense. I've got these plans for like 10 more books. So yeah, I'm not that old. I'm still writing. I'm still having fun.
All the way until you die, right?
You know, that's the beauty. A job like this, I don't ever intend to retire. You know, bury me with a typewriter, damn it.
I think that's a fitting way to end the interview. Thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome.